All right, so get ready, because today we are taking a deep dive into, we're heading to Florida.
Oh, Florida.
But not for, like, the reasons you might think.
Not Disney World.
Not Disney World, not the beaches.
Right.
No, we're going for the Florida man phenomenon.
Ah, yes, Florida man.
You know what I'm talking about? Those headlines that are so bizarre.
They're bizarre.
It's like, how is this even real?
Yeah. You can't tell if they're serious or satire.
Exactly. And to help us kind of unpack this whole thing, we're diving into this transcript we found from a podcast called Two Truths and a Florida Man.
Okay.
And basically the way it works is they have like two true Florida headlines and one fake one.
Okay.
And the guest on the podcast has to figure out which one's the phony.
Fun.
It's a pretty clever way to see just how wild these stories can get right.
Yeah, it really highlights how out there some of these headlines are.
Okay, so are you ready for round one?
Get me.
Okay, so the first headline is, this one's a real doozy. Florida man arrested for trying to steal a full-size alligator from a golf course using a laundry basket.
Wow, a laundry basket.
I mean, come on, a laundry basket.
It's got to be fake.
Right. It's like the perfect Florida man story.
Yeah.
You've got the alligator, you've got some random household object.
It's too perfect.
And a public setting. I mean, that's what makes this game so hard, right?
Yeah.
All right, so the second headline is, Florida man tries to rob a Wendy's with an alligator, throws it through the drive-thru window.
Okay, now that one's even more out there.
Even for Florida, right?
Even for Florida.
Like, is this real or is this just someone having fun?
I have no idea.
All right, and last but not least, we have Florida man pulls over a cop and tries to give him a speeding ticket.
Oh, my goodness.
Can you even picture it?
I mean, in Florida, I can.
It's almost like even the fake headlines
sound
plausible when it comes to Florida.
Like, we expect that level of crazy from Florida.
There's that.
It's become its own genre almost.
So in the podcast episode, the guest was like totally convinced that the alligator in the laundry basket was the fake one.
Okay.
But guess what?
What?
That one was too shooey.
No way.
It actually happened back in 2017.
I can't believe it.
I know, right?
Laundry basket and all.
Laundry basket and all.
They're amazing.
And get this. The fake one was actually the cop getting pulled over.
So the cop one was fake.
The cop one was fake. But you know what?
Yeah.
Even the host of the podcast was like, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if this happened next week.
Oh, absolutely.
So Florida's just...
anything goes.
Anything goes.
The Wild West of weirdness.
Exactly. And before we even get to, like, why that might be, they throw in a bonus story, because why not?
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yeah, there's more. So get this.
Okay.
This guy's just, like, minding his own business, shopping at Walmart.
Walmart.
When suddenly he decides to karate chop some swans in the parking lot.
What? Karate chop swans.
Karate chop swans. I'm not making this up.
In a Walmart parking lot?
Yeah. In the Walmart parking lot.
What was his reason?
Well, when the police questioned him, you want to know what his defense was?
Oh, I gotta know.
Swans started it.
The swans started it.
I kid you not.
The Hasek flu.
So it's like Florida just takes like normal life and just adds this extra layer of
bizarre.
Yeah.
It's like a fever dream you can't wake up from.
Exactly. But all of these stories, like, as funny as they are, you know, it makes you wonder, like, what is going on in the Sunshine State?
There has to be some explanation.
Right. And luckily, we've got our expert here to help us, like, peel back the layers of this whole phenomenon.
I'm happy to shed some light on the situation.
So let's unpack this. Where do we even begin?
Well, a good place to start is with something called Florida's Sunshine Law.
Sunshine Law.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of this.
I haven't.
It's basically a law that guarantees public access to government records.
So, like, more transparency.
Yeah, exactly. More transparency. So, like, police reports, all that kind of stuff.
That's got to be a good thing, right? You'd think so, right? But it can have some unintended consequences. Because information about even, like, minor or bizarre incidents is readily available.
Yeah.
It becomes really easy for news outlets to find and publicize these unusual stories.
So it's not necessarily that Florida has more strange things happening.
Right.
It's just that we hear about them more.
Exactly. They're just more out there for everyone to see.
Okay, so the Sunshine Law is part of it.
It's a big piece of the puzzle.
What else is contributing to this?
Well, you can't forget about Florida's incredibly diverse population.
Okay.
I mean, you have a large retirement community,
right?
A big Latinx population, a melting pot of cultures from all over the world.
A real mix.
And that diversity naturally leads to a wider range of behaviors and lifestyles.
I see. So it's not that people in Florida are inherently weirder.
No, not at all.
It's just that their weirdness is more likely to, like,
make the news.
Make the news.
Because of that Sunshine Law.
It's like a perfect storm of bizarre news.
It really is.
Okay, so we've got transparency and diversity, but what about the alligators?
Yes, the alligators.
You can't talk about Florida without the alligators.
Absolutely. They're part of the landscape, literally.
So that's got to contribute to the whole Florida man thing.
Oh, definitely. Florida's subtropical climate, the abundance of wildlife, it all adds to the unique backdrop of these stories.
It's like Florida's almost like a character itself in these stories.
Exactly. The environment, the wildlife, it all plays a part.
So we've got transparency, diversity, and alligators.
The trifecta of Florida man.
It's starting to make sense now why Florida is like the epicenter of these bizarre headlines.
And that's just scratching the surface. There's even more to it than that. But we can explore that a little later.
Okay, so what's next?
Well, how about we dive back into those headlines from the podcast?
Oh, believe me, there are plenty more where those came from.
Let's see what other gems we can uncover.
All right, let's do it.
Get ready for round 2. All right, so are you ready for round 2 of Two Truths and a Florida Man?
Hit me with it. I think I'm getting good at this.
Okay, let's see if you can keep up that confidence. Here's the first headline. Florida man calls 911 to report a stolen hamburger.
Oh, come on. That was going to be fake.
Is it though? Think about it.
I mean, it's almost too perfect. It's like that stereotype of Florida man just like...
calling 911 for anything.
For anything, yeah.
Overreacting.
Okay, what's the next one?
All right. Florida man arrested for riding a bike naked through a Taco Bell drive-thru.
Okay, that one is definitely giving me pause.
It's a bit more out there.
It's very specific.
Yeah.
You know, like why Taco Bell? Why naked? Why a bike?
So many questions.
This is like a fever dream.
That's the beauty of these headlines, though, right? It's that pure absurdity.
Okay, well, you've got me hooked. What's the final headline?
All right, here it is. Florida man tries to pay for McDonald's with a bag of weed.
Okay, I honestly don't know about that one. It feels like it could go either way.
Right.
Like, it's definitely something you could imagine happening in Florida.
Yeah, it's plausible.
But it also feels a little cliche.
Like maybe it's too obvious.
Yeah, like someone's just trying to be funny.
You're getting good at this. You're picking up on the nuances.
So which one is it? Lay out of me.
All right, the fake one this time is actually the stolen hamburger.
Really?
Yeah, apparently people calling 911 for ridiculous reasons is like a nationwide thing.
Oh, man, you got me. I totally fell for that one.
I told you, they're tricky.
It just felt so Florida man in my head.
It's that stereotype again.
So which of the other two is the real one? Don't tell me they're both true.
You'll have to wait and see. We'll reveal the answer a little later.
Oh, come on.
But for now, I think it's a good time to take a step back.
Okay.
You know, look at the bigger picture.
You mean like beyond just the laughs and how weird these stories are?
Exactly. Because, you know, as entertaining as these headlines are, we have to remember that there are real people behind them.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to forget that when you're just reading a headline.
It's like a snapshot, a tiny glimpse into someone's life.
And we don't always get the full story.
Right, we're missing the context.
And that can be kind of misleading.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we might be quick to judge or make assumptions.
Yeah.
Based on just that little bit of information.
Without knowing the whole picture.
So like how do we navigate that as listeners? You know, how do we appreciate the humor?
Yeah.
Without losing sight of the fact that these are real people?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Maybe it starts with realizing that behind every Florida man headline, there's a story waiting to be told.
Yeah, like a story that's more complicated than just a funny headline.
Exactly. And maybe we need to be more mindful of that.
So it's about being more sensitive, being more aware.
I think so. You know, it's easy to get caught up in the entertainment value.
Oh, yeah.
But we shouldn't forget the human element.
So next time I see a Florida man headline, I'm going to try to remember that.
I think that's a great approach.
Think about the person behind the story.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm feeling a little more grounded now. Are you ready to get back to those headlines and finally find out which one was real?
Let's do it.
All right, so remind me what they were again.
We had Florida man arrested for riding a bike naked through a Taco Bell drive-thru.
Right.
And Florida man tries to pay for McDonald's with bag of weed.
Okay, which one was it?
Drumroll, please. The real headline is the naked bike ride through Taco Bell.
No way. I was so sure that one was fake.
It's pretty unbelievable, right? But that's Florida for you.
Reality is stranger than fiction.
Sometimes, yeah.
So the McDonald's one is still up in the air.
Who knows? Maybe it'll happen next week.
Anything's possible in Florida.
Exactly. So we've talked about the Sunshine Law, the diverse population, the alligators, and the importance of remembering the human side of these stories.
What other insights can you offer about this whole Florida man thing?
Well, I think it's important to point out that Florida isn't the only place with weird news.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Every state, every region has its share of strange happenings.
That's true.
But for some reason, Florida just seems to capture our imagination when it comes to this kind of news.
Like Florida Man has become a brand.
It's an icon.
A mythical figure almost.
Exactly.
But it's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it?
It is, because while it's entertaining, it can also perpetuate stereotypes.
So how do we enjoy these stories without, contributing to those stereotypes?
That's a tough question, and I don't think there's an easy answer.
Yeah.
But I think it starts with being aware of those stereotypes.
Okay.
And trying to be more critical of the media we consume.
So thinking about the bigger picture again.
Exactly.
It's about finding that balance between humor and responsibility.
Well said.
This deep dive has honestly been a real eye-opener. I don't think I'll ever look at those Florida Man headlines the same way again.
That's what we like to hear.
So what are some of the key takeaways you hope our listeners walk away with today?
Well, I hope they've gained a new appreciation for how complex this whole Florida Man phenomenon is.
It's not just about random weirdness.
Right. It's about history, society, even the law.
And all of that influences how we see Florida and the people who live there.
Exactly. It's a reminder that there's always more to the story than meets the eye.
I think it's also a reminder to be careful about what we believe.
To be critical thinkers, to question the information we're given.
Because what might seem like a harmless, funny headline can actually be really misleading.
And it can perpetuate harmful stereotypes.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, is there anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, I think a good question to ponder is, how does the Florida Man phenomenon reflect our own fascination with the weird and the unusual?
That's interesting.
Is it just a harmless way to have a laugh, or does it say something deeper about us?
Like maybe we're drawn to these stories because they make us feel better about our own lives?
Maybe. Or maybe it's about our need to categorize and label the world around us.
Yeah, like Florida Man is the ultimate outsider.
Exactly.
Those are some really thought-provoking questions.
And I think they're worth exploring further.
I agree. Wow, it feels like we've really gone deep on this one.
We have, haven't we? From those crazy headlines to the bigger picture stuff.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
It's amazing how these Florida Man stories can spark such interesting conversations.
They really do. You know, we started out just thinking about Florida as this place where weird things happen.
Right, it's just this land of the bizarre.
But we've discovered so much more than that.
It's not just random, it's there are actual reasons why Florida has this reputation.
Yeah, like the Sunshine Law and how that affects the news.
And the diversity of the population and the environment.
It all ties together.
It's a fascinating mix of factors.
And we've also talked about the ethical side of it all.
Right, is it okay to just laugh at these stories?
Yeah, are we making fun of people?
Are we perpetuating stereotypes? It's something to think about.
It is. I mean, at the end of the day, these are real people with real lives.
Exactly. We can't forget that.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some of the big takeaways you hope our listeners will remember?
Well, I think the most important thing is just realizing how complex this whole Florida Man thing is.
It's not as simple as it seems.
No, it goes way beyond just funny headlines.
It's about understanding how the media works, how society works.
And how all of that shapes the way we see the world.
It's like a reminder to be more aware, more critical.
Don't just believe everything you read.
Think for yourself, ask questions.
Because a lot of times there's more to the story than we realize.
This deep dive has honestly changed the way I look at these headlines.
I'm glad to hear that.
I used to just laugh and share them without really thinking about it.
Right.
But now I'm going to be more mindful, more aware of the bigger picture.
I think that's a great takeaway from all of this.
So as we say goodbye to our listeners, is there anything you want to leave them with? Something to think about?
Sure. How about this? Why are we so fascinated with Florida Man? What is it about these stories that draws us in?
That's a good one.
Is it just the humor, or is there something deeper going on?
Maybe it's about our own need to feel superior.
Maybe. Or maybe it's about our desire to escape from the mundane.
To live vicariously through these crazy stories.
Exactly.
It's like those stories give us a glimpse into a world where anything is possible.
A world where the rules don't apply.
A world where you can ride a bike naked through a Taco Bell drive-thru and get away with it.
Only in Florida.
Well, that about wraps it up for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Likewise, and to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey to the Sunshine State and beyond.
Keep those minds curious, and remember, reality is often stranger than fiction.
And until next time, keep diving deep.